So part of what we're doing here then in this webinar and others is exploring the larger perspective, what is sometimes, in various traditions called the plan or the divine will or purpose, or the way that, as I'm sure I have said before, an essential aspect of the way that I envision the divine purpose is it's to put it in a kind of almost grassroots kind of way. It's simply the product of the collective wisdom and creativity of innumerable beings, us being part of that, in our response to the spirit of world awakening on larger and smaller, more concrete levels. In other words, we tend often to think of the plan in a very top-down kind of way often. Like there is a deity with a divine will, and then that's sort of imposed in a top-down way, that the universe exists, that it came into being somehow, and now there's this intention to bring greater something to the world, greater joy, greater peace, greater abundance, greater love, and it's God's will that this happen, and there's a way that that's going to happen. And I'm not saying there's not a kind of truth to that, but my experience and my vision is it's actually more of a co-creative enterprise where there are countless beings, whether to narrow it down to more the human kingdom, we can call them initiates and bodhisattvas and spiritual practitioners. And an aspect of how this plan unfolds is it's the expression of the natural projects that arise when people are awakened to deep spiritual principles like compassion or peace. And then you find yourself in a specific context, then it's natural to imagine ways to foster that quality in that context, which might lead to a plan. I think I'm going to engage in this project. That's a plan. There's a way in which that plan is really no less sacred and no less a part of the larger vision than any other aspect, because the plan is generated by beings. Yes, there are great intelligences, planetary logi and solar intelligences that are also part of this endeavor. But they don't micromanage every detail. We are all part of that, and we co-create the details of how that works out. But as co-creators, we do kind of want to know something about, well, what do the ancient ones think? What are they up to? What is their vision of world evolution? What is the vision of those that have been at this work for millions or even billions of years? Maybe I'd be most empowered if I kind of plug into these efforts. In a sense, it's perfectly within your right to be a completely independent planner and generate your own divine intention of how to work with contributing to your own and collective evolution. Each of us is a source. Each of us is directly accessible to the ground nature of reality, to God or Buddha nature. It's not, when we say that there's like a hierarchy, if you will, of intelligences that we can be a part of and participate in, that's not to say that the function of that hierarchy is to mediate spirit to us. We are intrinsically whole and divine. We are Buddha nature. No one is giving us that Buddha nature, transmitting it to, like, we're not passing along. There isn't a priesthood in between us and God. Each of us is a source of God consciousness. One of the ways that we can draw forth light into the world is that we access our own true nature and bring that light forth. There's also luminosity and energies in the environment too. So we can share in that, we can mix our energies, we can invoke energies. That's true too. So both of these things are true. We're part of a network of enlightened and awakening beings and awakened beings. And we can participate in a collective aspect of it. But we also want to stay in touch with our own source nature, our own true nature, which is part of our contribution. We tap into the sacred. We tap into awakened consciousness and contribute that as well. And part of that is we have creativity, we have individuality. We can be a source of intention and planning ourselves, and we are. There's really no escaping that. We can talk about giving our will over to the divine, but in reality, as long as we exist as individuals, we become a focal point for that. We want to honor that too. It's not our individuality has value in that we become a specific place, specific focus for how consciousness, how awakening, how light is shared with the world. It's not, its source isn't someplace outside of us, and that our job is to negate ourselves to make that light more present in the world. We are a source, and we can join with other sources and share that light, share that wisdom, share those qualities. So, as you can see, part of what I'm suggesting is that although we do have that right and that power to be a source of spiritual creativity and service and compassion ourselves, it also is part of the nature of things that we will find ourselves strengthened and empowered to experience being part of a larger community of beings that are doing that. And so that, in a sense, it's in that context that we can think about. So what's going on? What is the larger context? What are my elders? What are the ancient ones, the older souls, the great ones who are part of our planetary lineage, for instance? What do they understand that's happening in the world? What are their plans and intentions? Is it my soul's intention? Is it my calling to be part of that in some way? And as I've said, the foundation of that is to deepen our own spiritual awakening, to be on the path, to grow spiritually, because that in itself is service. And then there might be other layers to that can come out of that as well.